Of course, I'd always expect active speakers to solve as many problems as possible. Well, that's why I would say that they're ideal for such purposes. Compactness and solving as many problems as possible. In most cases, in the end, we don't really get much of that, right? Right. But concepts like being packed with all sorts of, let's say, inputs and, well, it's versatility in the sense that you can plug a lot of things into it, like this one here, right? For people, that's, well, that's the main thing. I also think that's very important, right?
Well, for example, look,
maximum number of inputs.
This is the Klipsch the 9s, a regular good speaker in the mid-price segment. You can plug a turntable into it. There's a built-in phono preamp here. You can plug in one analog source like, I don't know, a cassette deck if you have one. You can connect a TV via HDMI. You can connect a computer via USB. You can connect a CD player either via optical or coaxial. There is a subwoofer output here, which is also very important, and you can connect to this speaker via Bluetooth, so it has all the conveniences you need.
Everything you need to make it all work at home, all in one compact place, right? That's one issue that an active system solves for compact use, let's say, right? And at home, that's, well, the number one issue. How can you make all of this smaller? Fewer boxes, fewer wires, everything smaller.
What we have is that everything is built into the active speaker. We have the drivers themselves built in to create sound pressure. We have built-in amplifiers. For example, this speaker has two amplifiers. One works for the mid-bass driver and one for the tweeter. This is a very good solution in this price segment. We have a built-in digital to analog converter to convert the digital signal and send it to the amplifier, and we have a Bluetooth receiver. There is also a mobile app here, so you can control the equalizer and adjust the bass in the room a bit from your phone. It's really convenient. And for a not very picky listener, they are very convenient and sound really good. So what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that if we separate them, well, let's say we divide them, we also have other active systems, right? And these systems, but in any case, for the average person, nothing else is needed. This is enough. They get a compact, versatile setup, right? But the task that involves sound, there are questions about the sound, right? These speakers, well, not all of them, far from all, you could even say practically all of them, well, don't meet the requirements that, let's say, a listener who actually wants to get something is looking for.
That is, listeners who are audiophiles, who really want high quality sound.
Yes, yes, yes. And here there will be limitations in the settings in any case, right? Although there is also versatility here that they can self-adjust, right? But that's both a plus and a minus. We can show it here as an example later, right? So another one is, well, obviously, let's say the amplifiers work more easily. Yes, that is, the amplifiers are working into an almost purely resistive load. Yes, and nothing suggests to them that they're actually seeing a bunch of capacitors in front of them.
Yes.
Yes, so both resistance and inductance, basically the whole set of filters that exist, right, which turn a resistive load into a reactive one. So it turns out that on the one hand, the passive option, if you, let's say, take the electronics out of here, yes, and the simple passive option, and this simple version like a product, yes, with crossover adjustment, separate lows, separate highs, yes, there's no big advantage, right? The advantage starts when you want to make this active system control everything better, both the room and the full low frequency treatment in the room, yes, and so on. You can perfectly adjust the crossover. Yes, you can set it up the way you want, let's say, for that same phase response that we talk about every time. Yes, but here it's not solved, right? That's why, well, that's how this kind of gradation is, yes. To solve the phase response, well, there's no problem. I don't know why they don't solve it. It's strange to me, right? There. So, I can assume the price, I mean, really, if you make a good product, yeah, one that can do at least part of what I'm only outlining here. Yeah, naturally, the price goes up. It can even go up several times, right? There you go. And let's talk, for example, about the active speaker system we're making, right? There, the tasks related to universal connectivity are put on the back burner. Yeah, and there, everything is brought to the forefront, everything that we really value, right?
Yes, regarding...
So this is a phase response adjustment, individual adjustment for the room, your own adjustment. That is, as a rule, we hear things a little differently than the microphone sees, right? The microphone, it's basically dumb. It just equalizes what it can pick up. That's all. But let's say there are programs that use several microphones, right? They see all the reflections, this and that. But the bottom line is, when you do your own adjustments, first of all, you use fewer plugins in the digital part, which makes it easier for it. Yeah, for the processor. And you can actually do exactly what you feel is right, not just what the microphone detects.
Plus listening.
Yeah, right here.
It's mandatory.
Absolutely. Measurements alone never do anything, right? Because we listen, we care about the impulse response, how it reaches us, right? The microphone sees a lot, it picks up a lot, but it doesn't have that sensation.
Yes, but measurements are definitely used to identify problems and bring the sound system to a high, flawless level. It's simply impossible to do this by ear alone. I wanted to ask, there are active speakers and passive speakers. How do you choose which one you need, active or passive? How do you figure that out?
Well, first, what do you have here, right? I usually start by asking, what's your plan? There's no need to rush in saying, I want these speakers or something else. Basically, you should have a plan in your head.
How you're going to use it.
What kind you will have?
Usage scenario, yes.
In the end, after a few years, what kind of system will you put together for yourself? Yes, what direction will you take? For movies, for concerts, for rock, for blues, for this. Yes, all of that matters too. But basically, this picture that you need to put together, it works according to the plan, right? And initially, you need to understand why you are doing this and what your upgrade path will be later, right? And it turns out that if you don't, you might just end up simply selling it later. Yeah, something you don't need and buying something you need again, right? You definitely need a plan.
Well, for example, who is typical active speakers suitable for, like Klipsch the 9s, right? This is very good acoustics, it's well made, and on the back panel, as I showed you, there are connections, so who would it be suitable for? First of all, if you want to get high quality sound at home as quickly as possible, without aiming for reference level sound, any active speakers with similar inputs like we have on the back panel will do. This will allow you to connect all your gear, and it will save you from cluttering up the space next to your TV with a bunch of amplifiers, sources, players, and all sorts of other equipment. You will only have speakers next to your TV, and basically you can connect everything you need to these speakers, just like I mentioned. This option doesn't allow for any upgrades. You set up this speaker and that's it. You forget about it. You can't really do anything else with it, and you can't change its sound.
Well, you can add a subwoofer.
You can add a subwoofer and boost the bass.
Now that's a plan.
That's a plus, that's good.
That's the plan, right?
And if you don't like messing around with amps and wires, then no problem. But if you plan to upgrade your system, then you need to choose the components separately. Then you need to choose good passive speakers and select the components for them separately. Again, it depends on your needs, as Roland said.
Well, so here it turns out, right, that how does it work? There are companies that make everything from the beginning and then continue to develop it. Yes, you buy one thing, then you buy a second, then a third, a fourth, and in the end, you end up assembling exactly what you wanted, right? Well, I think that's the right way to do it, right? First, you need to get your thoughts in order and figure out who needs this, right? Right, so there could also be a passive option, just like with the processor. That's it.
Yes.
A standalone one, right? That can...
Well, for example, this is a rather expensive Ever Solo DMP A10, which is a streamer. meaning a source and a preamplifier. And it can also do room correction when you connect an external microphone to your phone and install the app. In Latvia, we call them applications. This is also a good option. And what's good about it is when you assemble the system components separately, the source, the amplifier, and the passive speakers separately. You can replace all these components with better ones, or let's say ones that provide a different sound character and get different sound and room for experimentation. Whereas a regular active speaker, which is also very good, but its purpose is different, to make it as easy to use as possible and deliver high quality sound. And here you already get a reference and the ability to achieve a reference and the ability to adjust it.
Well, that's the path we're taking to, because we're not focusing attention on these features. Yes, and mostly on the reference on a system that can create sound in your room and then systematically improve it without changing anything you've already bought.
Here it turns out that the speakers themselves have a built-in amplifier and a built-in digital to analog converter, because you can connect to these yellow ones via XLR analog, RCA analog, and through a digital interface, either optical or coaxial. That is for these speakers.
KIC was there.
ARC, this is a professional interface. So for these speakers, you need a good source. The better, the better.
The better it will be.
The better it will be. Sorry for the rambling.
Yes, that's why I'm saying that, let's say there are already the beginnings here of something that can develop. Yes, and you may have already had some kind of source, not a very good one, yes, but you know for sure that when you have this system, yes, you will be able to easily buy a more expensive, yes, digital source later, yes, or even
digital to analog converter.
Yes, a transport, let's say buy a transport, yes, and that's it, and you have everything here. There's volume control, so you can easily connect digitally, yes, and without any problems. The higher the quality, the more you get. Next, moving on. So any system we build can be developed even further, yes. Meaning if you, for example, bought any of these or those, you can upgrade it by adding a third way. We don't do subwoofers, we make a third way. And the crossover frequency is immediately around 300 Hertz, yes, from 200 to 300 Hertz.
The sound pressure increases.
Yes, and since we have
the lower limit drops.
The lower limit drops significantly. Yes, we have almost all the settings down to 16 Hertz, right?
It's absolutely fantastic.
And, well, yes, but this requires your attention to everything in the room, right? Not every room will allow you to do that.
Audiophiles don't talk about this. It's called a full-range hi-fi system, not some kind of fantastic high-end that doesn't even know what 20 Hertz is. Yes, it's a full range, from 20 to 20, that's what I mean.
That's already down to 0.
Not the mythical high-res, which supposedly goes up to 40, but at 40 it's minus 50 decibels, and we basically can't hear anything above 15 kilohertz at all. Here it's full range.
Well, and why not choose a subwoofer? Because our main goal is transient response, right? Preserving transient response, right?
So the bass is flat starting from 0 and up?
Yes, and it's actually very hard to preserve transient response, especially the lower you go. It's relatively easy at the top, but much harder at the bottom, right? And that's why the frequency of 200, 300 Hertz is the most favorable for keeping transient response intact. But the most important thing is that we place the low frequency driver lower down, as I've said many times before. The lower the low frequency driver is placed, the fewer reflections it will get, which would interfere with its operation, because if it's set here, you can already calculate, right? Around 150, 200 Hertz, there will already be a dip, right? But at the bottom, everything is fine, right?
How does the size of the room affect the choice of a speaker system, whether active or passive? And what do people expect to get in terms of bass?
Well, here you shouldn't forget what measurements are for. Yes, the room, that's one. Second, the capabilities of this system, that's two, yes, of any active system. Because you start matching things up.
The room?
The speaker, this one, with this speaker, yes, with any of these speakers, because this, you can forget about it. You could say that this is not a room, it's a speaker. Yes, and
you're considering,
you insert one into the other.
you're looking at the room where we are, that we're inside the speaker.
Definitely, because that's exactly how it is.
And inside this speaker, we put more speakers.
Yes, and we add another speaker. Just imagine you're here fighting with a little speaker, right, which goes tick, 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 tick in the middle. All these frequencies, yes, which reach us through the speaker cone. And you cover it with absorbers. You're fussing over it. All the companies are polishing. Then you bring the same thing, just in a bigger size, right? And then you start making bubbles there. Someone has something that doesn't work. Something's just not right. Right here, this is exactly the kind of work where you either need to ask specialists for help or basically figure it out yourself, right?
You go out and measure with a microphone.
Yes, we measure that. Of course, we have no problem with that. But the problem is that not everyone needs this. Not everyone wants to move furniture or do a lot of things. But that's almost always the case.
It's exactly the same at my place, yes. Why did I have such big problems with my speakers? Yes, I had limited space for them. I could only put them where I could put them, that's it. I couldn't put them where you recommended. Yes, you came to my place, set up the squares, the tape, marked the spots with dots. I placed the X marks closer to the wall than planned because my 3 kids run around the apartment.
Yeah, they run around? No, it's all good.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's all. That's right.
All normal people live in this kind of situation.
That's how they live. Well, let's continue further about. So why you need to know what's there? Well, who writes about speaker systems? Their data, right? At least they almost never write the specs of the drivers used in them. If we gave you the driver data this time, right, you would enter it into a basic basebox program and you would get a result there, which is without the room, without anything else, but you would still get a result in terms of acoustic power. You will have a rough idea of what it is capable of. There you go. Here, it's unknown what the X-max is. Yeah, the port tuning can be found out pretty easily, right? So the measurements of your room on the one hand are also pretty simple. You can take any speaker, a low frequency driver in any enclosure. You can measure its frequency response up close with a phone, get noise from the internet. Just be careful, there are different types of noise in terms of quality, right? You get pink noise from the internet, then use a microphone and your phone. There are free apps you can use for a while. You measure near the speaker, right? And you'll get some kind of frequency response, right? And that's it. And then you go to where you want to listen and measure there while your speaker stays where it is, right where it stands. And you'll see what you get. You didn't spend anything at all, but you already have a result. So, really, you don't need to go to the store and listen to the speaker, right? Because you have it right there. You look at your phone, you have the result. Damn, you have 60 hertz plus 6 decibels. There's no 40 at all, right? Well, that's how it starts. Well, you can move this little speaker around basically and see what result you get in each position. So, in the end, you'll get a picture of how it is in your room at your listening spot, right? And then you start turning on your computer and checking it out. You have absolutely no sound at 40 hertz, nothing at all, just completely missing. Well, there you go. Just pick a speaker that has a fairly high sensitivity but doesn't go very low. Right? That's it. And you can handle down to 60 hertz, let's say, and you'll get good punch. That's all. Yes. But when you don't have 60 hertz and you have 40 with a boost there, that's when you need to think about it. Then, well, like these green ones, why are they like that? Yellow green, light green, I don't know.
Audiophile Easter?
Audiophile Easter.
Yes, write in the comments what color these speakers appear on your screen. For me, this is really an audiophile Easter. They sound great.
They'll be leaving soon, but still. The point is that these systems are designed specifically for rooms like this. Yes, so you simply don't have 60 hertz, right? There's a dip, and you keep trying to fix it, trying and trying. Well, somewhere it goes up, somewhere something happens, right? But then there's nowhere for 40 to go and 32. Yeah, well, okay, that doesn't happen, 40 and 30, but sometimes you do get 30 and 40, like the range just kind of floats nearby. That's it. So then, well, here the system is tuned high, but acoustically it's designed so that it emits sound backwards and
Low frequency.
low frequency. Yes, the emission is more efficient, meaning the effective radiating area is the same as the cones. Then it turns into an open baffle design, so it worked. It resonated at its 55 hertz, right? Then it turns into an open design, since the room holds this frequency, right? An open baffle design will reproduce that frequency at a reduced level. Of course, yes, but surprisingly you'll hear it as if your very low frequency speaker is working, right? At the same time, you can adjust its efficiency at 60 hertz however you want. Well, you can't adjust just any frequency however you want, but in general, you can adjust it. And so it's like you've managed to make this room work with this system, right? That's the point here.
It's there.
If you make a correction,
3 settings for the bass, right?
yeah, so listen, if you make a correction at least plus 3 decibels, you have a dip at 60 hertz, right? It goes down to 40 maybe. Yeah, so you have a dip at 60 hertz, and if you add 3 decibels, then, sorry, your X is at maximum, and you've just lost your dynamic range. Even with that, your X will go way over the limit, and that's it. You won't get any benefit. Yeah, it'll just go into clipping, and you still won't get the output you want, so you really need to pay close attention to this. So, like I said, with this method, you can pretty much accurately choose the right speaker enclosure design. Yeah, that's why people make high sensitivity speaker designs, because you can adjust the frequency, the tuning, and the Q factor of the driver, right? The resonance frequency and, the room, the place where it's located. Yeah, well, to more or less assemble a set that sounds good at low frequencies. So, yeah, the left and right can be different. You have to keep that in mind, too.
They will definitely be different.
Yeah, that's pretty much in every room where we measure. Well, it's just like night and day. Yeah, and that's the scariest part. When they're different, there's nothing you can do. Yeah, and correction doesn't help there. You still have to move things, well, up to a certain point where you can actually start correcting, right?
By the way, when we were setting up this place, choosing this spot for the store to do the demo, yeah, originally our plan was to place the speakers to your right. Roland said, that's it, let's put them here, it's the best spot, but in the end everything moved behind us. Roland kept moving them forward and back, forward and back. Actually, my suggestion was to put them a meter forward so you could get behind and plug in all the cables easily. But in the end, everything ended up about 50 centimeters from the wall. And the sound was just reference quality. It's an illustration of what Roland is talking about.
And here, of course, there are problems too. Yes, down to 50 hertz. This spot right here, yes, the ideal was achieved. Yes, lower. Well, if you move further down there, yes, and then over there, let's say, you can get the full range. Yes, well, with the room's contribution, of course, yes, so that's how it will be in any room. It's very hard to make everything perfectly balanced. That's it.
I have a question. Many viewers write in the comments that when choosing active speakers, the best option is studio monitors. Is that true?
Oh, listen, it's a bit ambiguous with these things.
With the Pro label.
Yeah, with these options, honestly, I really dislike both options, right? I mean, neither one is really correct and nothing is really right, because there are a lot of mistakes that hardly anyone pays attention to. Yeah, why do some people make their own monitors? Because they want to get a more accurate sound in the studio, right? Sometimes the studio is just over-dampened, yeah. And let's say there are slightly different requirements there, like you need sharper crossovers to handle the frequencies. But basically, when everything is fine, yeah, and you have the right system, it will sound the same in the studio as it does at your home. There won't be any difference. Yeah, and when your room is set up properly, yeah, and you've paid attention to it, it will sound the same, right? The only thing is, it might sound better in the studio for one simple reason. They have all the cool digital equipment there, let's say, in a serious studio. Yeah, and all of that is expensive, and it's all digital there.
It's a bit better, yeah.
When you connect digitally there, you just stand there And you just think, God, why bother with anything else, right? I mean, that's how much of a difference there is, you know? Well, in my opinion, there are bad monitors on both sides.
Both in home hi-fi and
Yes.
in the professional world.
Yes, in the professional world too. And that's why, in my opinion, you should rely not on the company's name, but on the capabilities of this system. I'm talking about all the filters, yes, and you align it, the phase response, and you claim that you've aligned everything. But do you measure the impulse response? I think you do. The classic step response. Why does everyone aim for this step response? Well, you can see everything on it, all my engineering work, any engineer's work. It's visible in that impulse response. That is how much time a person spent on what he did specifically from an engineering standpoint, not just when your hair stands on end. That doesn't interest me at all. My musical preferences, Arkadi's musical preferences, what his and mine are.
We listened to this together 2 days ago, right? My hair didn't stand on end, but I did get goosebumps down my back.
Yeah.
More than once when we listened to this audiophile Easter egg together, it was just amazing.
Yeah, none of that matters. You see, I'm only interested in one thing, what's recorded on the medium. And when you approach the issue this way, yeah, then your solutions are completely different, not like everyone else's, because you have a specific goal. So what happens then? So on this engineering step response, as I call it, yeah, the impulse response has a triangular shape. Yes, everything is embedded in it. The frequency is there, the unevenness is there, and most importantly, the beginning of the impulse response. Yes, so you didn't have music and then it appeared, right? That's the beginning of the impulse response. So these impulse response shapes, which are easily corrected in the step response with basic fire filtering, yes, which it supposedly does, assemble this pulse. If it's not assembled, the classic one will look like this. Yes, it can go down or up, right? It consists of 3 parts. You hear the tweeter, the mid-range, and the woofer separately. Yes, even though you all insist that's not the case, it's just that you don't have the information and don't want to know about it. When you know all this, you hear it all perfectly, that's it. But when after all this math, you have a new step like this that goes down and then goes up, and you say you put it together, guys, that's only half the work. Why am I talking about this? Because engineers already, I've talked to sound engineers in America, in Israel, and here in Latvia, and they're already noticing this. And they say we'd rather have the old impulse response because we can hear it, you know, the right way.
Plus, minus.
Yes, rather than hearing this pre-processing, this filtering, because pre-processing isn't the work of the musician or the sound engineer, it's already the work of filtering or something else, right? But it can do much more, so we should treat it that way, right? I was really shocked, of course. And when a blogger listens, you know, first you do it like this, and then you listen.
Well, I know that your goal at Reflector Audio is to make the sound at home and in the studio the same as the musician hears it.
Yes.
And this is achieved through engineering of the step response.
Yes, exactly.
A flat frequency response.
Yes, exactly.
And listening.
Yes, exactly. Why?
So you've got 2 sides to you, an engineer and an audiophile. If you weren't an audiophile, you wouldn't be able to do it.
I wouldn't have gotten involved.
I wouldn't be able to do it. As an engineer, you could design a good speaker system with great specs, but you wouldn't be able to judge how it sounds.
Because we have an intermediary. The intermediary is the speaker system and everything else, right? If with everything else, for some reason, we measure everything, even cables, which seem to be measured, but nothing actually sounds. But in the end, when you start digging into it, you can actually find someone who has gone deep into it and they can explain, right? And those long waves, which are kilometers long in cables, yes, they get converted into meters through our acoustic transducer. Yes, and that's also a problem. Well, that's it. What's my point? Why am I talking about the medium? I'm interested in the medium. There's a contemporary artist, Eduard Pustovoitov, right? Right. Well, great. I don't know. My favorite painting of his is Oxygen, right? Right. And he has this technique. He has a very delicate technique. Yeah. And you can look at the painting like this. Or from 3 meters away, nothing changes. Yeah. And the feeling is always the same, right? It's not like with others where you have to step back 10 meters to see what he painted. So this painting, when you stand next to it, you just can't get enough of it. Yeah. So that's how well the title fits. Well, just imagine a painting like that, right? And some middleman comes along, looks at it and says, you need to hang it sideways and put some gauze on top. That would be fantastic, right? How would Edward react to that? Well, I can pretty much imagine, right? That's why you shouldn't interfere with artists' work. Our job is to hear what they've created and to see it, right? That's it. And all these discussions about coherence, I'm not even talking about sound. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in any impressions a person got. If all of this can be understood, that's a different story. Yeah, that's it. He says, I get pleasure from this, from that. Well, let's see. Let's look at the impulse response. Well, yeah, this section reaches you faster, then the harmonics are emphasized there. Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, but that's just with one recording, right? With other recordings, it'll be the opposite, and that's their eternal problem. He hears well in the morning, but poorly in the evening, or the opposite. Sometimes everything sounds fine at night, but in the morning there's nothing to hear. We have two speakers, left and right. They paint, they're two artists, really two brushes, as they say, right? They create that phantom image for you. They paint this picture, right? And so what happens? Just keep in mind that at high frequencies, your brush should be thin. In the mid-range, it's thicker, and in the low end, it can resemble a broom.
A wide brush?
A wide brush, that's right, exactly. See, do you understand? And what happens while you're painting? Let's take a crossover. Yes. And these two little speakers draw you a picture. Yes, the image of any person who is singing, any instrument. Yes. And you have this brush that was painting upwards, and when it switches to the middle brush, yes, and suddenly it's still painting this brush, but now the big brush at the top starts smearing. The sharpness in your image is lost. That's it. And that's actually how it is. The steeper your drop off, the cleaner your highs are. What does that give you? First, it gives you a very detailed sound stage. It gives you more information between the performers, meaning their aura around them kind of increases, right? Right. Next, your rock music becomes more textured, right? With distortion effects, you finally realize it's not actually an ear-splitting instrument. It's the distortion at work. And even virtually, you can imagine how it distorts the sound, right? This is so important. Toward the lower frequencies, it can be an order of magnitude less, right? But that will already depend on the phase characteristics, on how you combine them, right? But basically what I said is the foundation and the placement of the speakers as well. Your image, this brush, should paint it the same way everywhere for you, right? With coaxial speakers, everything works well if the phase is correct and they're set up properly. With other types, it's more challenging, isn't it? You need to place the tweeter as close as possible, right? Because the closer the tweeter is, the more accurately it will render that phantom image. And the same goes for depth, the depth of the sound stage, right? There's no such concept. In high-end audio, they talk about it, but in reality, it doesn't exist. If you're talking about soundstage depth, right, then I want to remind you, I'm reminding you of everything today. Yes, what do the guys use? Sound engineers, at least some of the things, right? When they're working, when they want to achieve something.
To move something away or bring it closer.
Yes, or bring it closer. First we have the frequency response, yes. Then the volume, yes. And one of the factors is the attack. And what do we get? And there are a couple more, yes, but it doesn't matter. This is already enough, right? And what do we get? It turns out that if again, sorry, I'll draw with my hands, with my fingers. I'll draw you an impulse like this. Yes, the classic one that you have in speakers, right?
In all speakers by default.
They will be in different places. They will jump around. They will cross zero. These are all problems. These are all phase distortions, right? So what do you get then? So when the impulse goes down, that's a decrease in attack, a decrease in the quality factor of this section, meaning the image kind of recedes deeper into the soundstage, right?
It moves away.
So all the tricks that the sound engineer does, right? And you sit there enjoying that picture thinking, oh, what depth, but it's not really there. There's actually no depth at all. But when you put a singer who understands, who sings without processing, just a microphone, she also ends up over there, but she should be right here, you know? That's it. This is all so important. It's important to understand, at least to know a little bit about it, you know, and that's why I don't talk about sounds, because, well, there's nothing to talk about. Or you take it and actually work with a real instrument, with a microphone, you know, and you hear all of it, right? I just had a situation like that. Time is passing, but that's okay. Yeah, I also have a big setup in the main studio, and the guys changed everything there and rearranged the system, so I had to set it up. So open baffle design. So I went to set it up, came in, set it up, and said, let's run it through the mixer, yeah. And I'll check how the low end is behaving, maybe adjust it a bit here so it works properly. So, and I said, put on some tool, yeah, maybe some revise, just some track. So he put it on, we checked everything was great. Then a guy runs in and says, this mixer needs to be repaired, one channel isn't working, that's it. Bring in the one the DJs always use. He puts this mixer in, and the other guy takes it away. I'm listening to the sound, but there's no sound at all. I mean, there's no attack. The bass became muddy. Yeah, that's it. I say, what is this, right? I say, maybe there are some, well, fancy, I look, mixers. Yeah, I won't mention any names. I don't like to. But it's basically a Dutch company from a well-known brand. That's it. He says, no, it's just like click, 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 click. All those gadgets are there. He says, this is the best tube sound. It creates that tube sound. That's it. You have to work with it. I say, well, I understand it's a musical instrument. Fine, yes, but I ask, what do you listen to through it? The microphone is also plugged in there, right? So normal recordings go through it too. Okay, DJs spin their stuff there. You can't tell where it starts or ends, right? That's it. But why? I measured it and it has a 3-band filter turned on. The speaker system, the plug-in, there's a plug-in installed, and I understand that it's a musical instrument. I understand why they need it. Yeah, well, I got it, yes. So there's a plug-in and everything goes through it. And as it passes through, you can turn the lows, highs, or mids down to 0, you know? Like a crossover, yeah, the volume is there, but there's no bass. Yeah, they use it, they work with it, right? That's it. And then it all gets summed up and goes here to the output. Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, it's a plug-in. But come on, in the modern world, with modern equipment, you can't just add a button to turn it off or on, or even add a different setting. Yeah, and in general, you can align the linear phase and keep the characteristics. That's possible now. You put in this crap, you work through it. It can be like an extra mixer, right? A separate mixer that comes after. I said, come on, Pioneer, bring over the old mixer. That's it. Everything's fine. Everything sounds great. Everything's perfect. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? That's the question. People work with this stuff, right? They're all about that tube sound. But in the impulse response, you get this kind of high end, this kind of mid-range, and then the low end just gets stuck on, you know? It's just really the mid-range is just pushed out, and that's what they call tube sound. Yeah, I'm talking about how you can name things and then check and understand what kind of crap is actually going on here, right?
I suggest we move on to the conclusion and talk about who a classic home hi-fi active speaker is suitable for or not, and who a professional reference active speaker system is suitable for or not, and who is better off sticking with a passive speaker system. So, but I guess let me talk about the active home hi-fi and who it's suitable for. At the very beginning, I told you that classic active hi-fi speakers like Clip G9, G7, G5 are suitable for people who want to get high-quality sound at home with a simple connection and without taking up much shelf space with amplifiers, sources, and other equipment. Such systems sound good, are quick to set up, and cost less than a full audio system consisting of separate speakers, a separate amplifier, and a separate source. Because all the components are assembled in one case, made at the factory, and are all matched to each other, it already sounds at its best right out of the box, which is convenient. Who is it not suitable for? It's not suitable for people who want to experiment with sound and who specifically need a passive audio system. So, if you like to change different amplifiers, sources, rearrange things, experiment, reconnect, and in the end, use good high-quality cables, whether power, speaker, or interconnects, then guys, only a passive audio system will do. And now.
Do you know another advantage it has?
Which one?
And nowadays, all the young people live in rented apartments.
Yes, by the way, 2 little speakers.
Tucked under your arms.
Grab them and go.
And there are different sizes here, right?
Sizes, well, this is the largest one, let's say. This one.
Yes.
It's hard to put it on a shelf. It's a big speaker, yes, but the 5s are about this size, right?
Yes, that's right.
Tuck it under your arm and off you go.
More. Sure. More, let's say. You do understand that any system, well, let's put it this way, its upgrade path, as we said, is 0, right?
That's it. You can't change anything else.
That's it. You can't do anything else, right? And that's why
you just replace the standard power cable with one like this. That's it. And leave it at that.
And leave it at that. Yeah, that's it. Yes. And here it's for those who need, as I already said, I'll repeat, just a plan. Yes, if he has a plan for what he wants to do at home. Yes, even just to take a simple measurement at his place. Yes, he's even okay with that. Yes, then you can already consider a system that can be implemented in any room.
And it can be upgraded.
And it can be upgraded. That's our advantage, right? Because many people don't know. I think they'll buy a Squire, buy it here, and that's it. Yes, let's say it works from 40, well, actually from 35, right? Given how many are already in studios, it works from 35 hertz, and that's it. Yes, well, it has huge potential, just insane. Yes, because when it turns into a 3-way system, you need to put 2 12s underneath, and it can handle them.
And then the sound?
Yes, and then it's a completely different thing. You could have a room that's 100 square meters.
For those who want to develop and improve their system, a professional speaker system is necessary.
More importantly, one that can fit into any room.
Which has potential built in. And I also want to talk about an interesting factor about the price. Yes.
Yes.
Please tell us the price of the audiophile Easter. How much does it cost, together with the amplifiers and DACs, since each speaker has its own amplifier and digital to analog converter? How much do they cost?
5, 5, and 5.
The audiophile Easter costs 5.5 thousand. I would say that's not expensive because we listen to it, and for speakers that sound at that level, they provide such a level of detail, such scale, drive, such dynamics, that, guys, when I visited high-end in Munich, I went to all the high-end rooms, spaces where there were huge speaker systems that were taller than me. There were monoblocks on the floor. All of this was connected, well, not even with regular power cables. I mean, damn, what kind of power cables? Interconnects as thick as an arm, speaker wires also incredibly thick. So the budget just for passive speakers that would try to reach this level would be about 100,000 euros. Plus monoblocks, plus a digital to analog converter, sources, cables, stands. Guys, to buy a high-end speaker system that tries to reach the audiophile holy grail in terms of sound, well, we don't have another name for it, sorry. You'd really have to rob a bank. Here for 5,500 you get reference level sound, but you need a good source for it. Either a digital transport or a streamer. Well, like we suggest, for example, the Eversolo DMP-A10.
Well, you can also connect a CD to it, for example.
And you can connect a CD, yes. So basically for about 10,000 you get exemplary flawless sound. Why does this happen? Here you might say, damn, what the heck, why does high-end cost hundreds of thousands and here it's just 10,000? Guys, it's all about engineering, audiophilia, and direct sales. Because all the companies that sell through distributors and dealers are forced to sell their products very cheaply, and then the chain of sellers and distributors increases the price by at least 3 times. Just like that, out of nowhere. As a result, it becomes very expensive, and the sound quality still may not satisfy you. Here we get direct sales from the manufacturer, who doesn't need to add a markup for the dealer, a markup for the distributor, or for any marketers and resellers. As a result, it's a direct sale and an honest price for exemplary sound. May the force of the sound that's right for you be with you. Come visit us. Thank you, Roland, for an interesting interview.
Always happy to